Hello and welcome to The Hero's Spouse. I'm Kenda Ruth, here to answer one of your questions about marriage and midlife crisis. Today we have an anonymous female left behind and forward-moving spouse with a bomb drop of June 14th, 2023 and a date of marriage of 2000. She has a clinging boomerang who is a high-energy replayer. She says, my husband is now back in the house as of Christmas Eve. Everything seems to be the same besides the physical connection. To me, he seems confused, and in turn, I'm confused. It's exhausting. Every now and again, I see his normal self peek out, and then he goes right back into MLC. I haven't been asking any questions or anything regarding his whereabouts. I feel I don't have the right of spouse. Since in his head, we're separated. He said he wanted freedom, and that's what I'm giving him. He started letting me know on his own his whereabouts. We had a discussion regarding bills, and he stated I have to buy you all a house. The kids and I, likely. He's totally excluded himself from the equation. So you're going to buy a house and not live in it? Should I just take what he says as a grain of salt? You could ask him. That he said it. So that is one where he said it. There's a conversation already going on. The time when you have that question is right then. I'm confused. What do you mean you're going to buy us a house? And the kids are adults, so why would he be buying you, plural, a house? That would be, seems to be enabling his children with silver spoons kind of thing. My therapist told me to look at his actions and not listen to his words. Yes, that's a good thing, but not always. Yes and no, because sometimes MLCers have some actions, but they have words that are future-oriented because they do take those actions. I don't know what to do. The emotional roller coaster is too much. Okay, so what I'm going to ask you then, what is too much? And what does that mean? Too much what? And I don't mean too much emotion. I mean too much of him there. Is he still saying that he's going to date? Because at the last one, we talked about how he said he's coming home and he's going to live here and he planned to date. And that was cake eating. And so he got upset when you said you were going to date too, because that wasn't an expected thing for him. And now he's just kind of gone into almost, he's high energy, but he's also being low energy in some of these bits. So which parts of him are high energy? He's just kind of there, like a potato on the couch. And so what is too much? I mean, I understand it, but I want you to verbalize it for us, because you need to say what's too much so that you can do something about it. Or you need to say what's too much so that you can say, well, if this is too much, what are the consequences or what are the actions I need to do? What is it that I don't want? And I know you don't want the situation, but is it that he can't be in the house? Or is it something else? What is it that can change, that you have the control to change, that needs to change? So there are things that you want changed that you don't have the power to change, and that's right now his attitude, his emotional state, his depressed state, his choices, all of those. You can't change him. You can influence him, but he has to then make the choice to change his own mind. So what are the things that you can control? Because it's too much. I totally get it. What do you do now? What boundaries do you need to set? It's great that he started letting you know his whereabouts. You had the discussion about bills. Now, it's time to say, you said you're going to buy a house and not live in it. Or no, that's your question. He's going to buy a house. He stated, I have to buy you all, because it says you'll, so I'm assuming you all, a house. The kids and I, like he's totally excluded himself from the equation, which is very common for a midlife crisis. But you have a clinging boomerang, and not only clinging, but you have somebody who's presently living at home. That's why it's okay to ask it. Sorry, can you clarify that? What do you mean? You just said, so are you saying we're going to sell this house? Or were you thinking you're going to stay in this house and are you kicking us out of it? What's being said here? I mean, he might think it's obvious, and we could all guess that maybe he's saying, we're not going to be together. We're separating, and I'm going to make sure that you're taken care of. But he's not being fully clear. And why would he buy the kid's house? Sorry. They shouldn't be a part of the equation if they're older. I understand that they can stay there, and maybe they need to get through school. But it's about you. So it sounds like he's trying to reassure you, don't worry, hon. I'll take care of you. You're not going to be, in the poorhouse because I'm leaving. And so that is showing to you, it's showing to you a state of depression, whether that's high energy or lower energy. MLC is depression, is what I mean with that. It's showing you guilt and shame. It's showing you that he wants to step up, but he doesn't feel that he has the emotional capability. But he's like, but I can do the financial duties. I can do what I was meant to do. So ask him about that. Sure, you can do what your therapist says and look to his actions, but you're going to be constantly waiting for his other shoe to drop. And for me, it took me a while to figure this out on myself, but my love language, my main one is physical touch, but very close second. And this is what it took a while to figure out is words of affirmation. So it would not work. The therapist saying, look at his actions and don't listen to his words. Words are very powerful. And if your love language is words of affirmation, is just words, it's important what people say. That's probably not good, because those words are going to eat at you. And it's just how you are. To say, oh, don't let them bother you, because other people cannot let them bother them. Well, isn't that nice of them? But they are going to bother you no matter what everyone else tells you they shouldn't bother you. Somebody's saying words that they're not always mean or not mean. They're just warning flags about what's coming up. And you're waiting constantly in a paranoia for the other shoe to drop. Because the actions look great right now, but there's always this red flag. And the therapist isn't addressing that if all you're doing is paying attention to actions without the warning signs of the red flag words. I mean, I get it. And I get the therapist saying, sometimes therapists are at a loss and like, well, here's a good thing to do. It's kind of when you go in and you see therapy speak. We don't always, and I'm not a therapist, but humans, we don't always know what to say, even when we've been trained in these things. But sometimes, okay, I'm going to fall back on some of the key things from my training. And one of those is look at someone's actions, not their words. That would be a good thing for a therapist. But it's not always going to work out, because what does that do? It leaves me going, but he's still saying the damn words and they're warnings. I mean, there's smoke going up. What am I doing? Waiting here. So I'm not as big a fan of that right now. I would rather you talk to her about that and say, but he's still saying the words. And the words, whether you like it, Miss Therapist, or not, they bother me. And we can say they shouldn't bother me, but they bother me, and they are red flags. Saying something shouldn't bother me doesn't mean they don't. So that really, I guess that maybe I'm bothered by that, even though I see that all the time, and I've probably said it, look at their actions. But the more I think about it, because I've seen these MLCers do this sort of thing. And so I want you to be doing the actions. And I want you to be taking the actions. One of the biggest actions is MLC is really hard to detach. It's hard to detach from your MLCer when they're in the house. Doesn't mean I want you to kick them out. It doesn't mean you should or shouldn't. It means you need to make a decision on it. Here's the times when I really advise you. If they're having an affair, you know it and they know you know it. In other words, I call that a public affair. I call it public whether even if no one knows but you and they know you know. That's the key. If they know you know. Because if you know about it and they know you know and you keep letting them live there, then they know you're allowing them to live at home while cheating on them. While cheating on you. And so you're teaching them how to treat you. And they're getting away with it. And that's a line in the sand, especially in the taunting. And even that isn't as black and white as I'm making it sound. because there were points with Chuck where he was trying to get me to kick him out. And I knew he wanted me to be the bad guy, and I could read the writing on the wall that he was going and getting ready, and she was pulling him, and so I was not going to be the bad guy. I had to balance. It would have gotten to a point I could have kicked him out. But the way I knew he worked is it ramped up for a few weeks and then he left. And so I knew how he cycled. So it's not as black and white as it sounds even. But how do you do it if there's not an affair? Or you don't know, but you think there's not an affair? You have to determine the level of not just toxicity for you, because you could say, well, it's not a conflict. It's just hard for me. It's just depressing for me. The emotional roller coaster is too much. Are you making any forward progress in your healing? Are you staying stagnant in your healing? So you're not going down, not getting worse, and not getting better. Are you getting worse? So you have more to heal from. So if you're if you're staying stagnant or getting worse, make a change. Because stagnant, then you're not getting better. It is not improving. Your healing, not the situation. We're not talking about that. We're talking about your healing. If that's not improving. But then, if it is not your healing, the level of your emotional stability, the level of your ability to say that I don't know what to do, the emotional coaster is too much. In other words, this emotional roller coaster sucks, and I don't like it. Sometimes it feels overwhelming, but I'm working on it, and I'm detaching. If you are able to make enough progress at enough of a rate that it is getting you better. If the rate's still too slow, it's not going to help you. If it's too slow, not stagnant, but it feels it, it's still too slow. So if it is at a good enough rate, yeah, maybe you can keep it, keep how it is, the situation with him at home. But if it is going to be that it's not going to improve with him at home, or if you're always looking to, well, yeah, but we're changing this situation about it next week or next year or next month, this happens, or the kids leave then. And then if you're always looking to some milestone in the future, and how far away is that milestone? And I ask that because we're about to build now, and I keep going, well, we're going to get new furniture when we move. We don't want to move new furniture, but now I'm thinking maybe we should get some new small things that aren't furniture. But I've been putting all of those off. And so my kitchen is a clutter house because, well, I don't want to buy these new little tiny things until we move. But it might be a year. We haven't started building yet. We've just put in finishing the permits. Am I supposed to live in clutter for another year? Maybe not. So I don't want you always living I'm not going to get out of this part of the emotional baggage and the emotional roller coaster and the emotional drain on me until this happens, and that this isn't going to happen for a year. Make your changes now. If it's 1 week out, you can handle a week. If it's 6 months out, it's too far. If it's 3 months out, I think that might be too far for you. If it's 1 month out, you need to make that determination. What can you do, and what changes can be made if you can't do that in the meantime? Because you need to make the changes. You don't know what to do. Having an MLCer at home makes your healing, it always does. This is always the problem. Makes it harder. If you are on the Facebook group, since you have an at-home MLCer, you also might want to check out, if you haven't already, check out Tessa's group for at-home MLCers. Okay, go look it up and see if you could send her or even me a question, because you have to be invited in, and see because you might want that kind of just that kind of support as well. Okay. I hope this is helpful, and I will see everybody in the next question.